The first Hispanic Convocation took place in 1984, and the goal for us here at Arizona State University was to create a space for the families to really celebrate education and the achievement of the students.
We should recognize what at that time was relatively few Latino, Mexican-American graduates from this university.
To understand the first convocation, you have to understand the environment back then. The Latino population on campus was approximately 4%. There was a serious problem with attrition. Most of the students didn't make it. And most of the students were first-generation students to go to college.
The Hispanic Convocation was totally ad hoc. It was not recognized by the university. There was even resistance of getting the names of the students to invite.
ASU was great at being an educational institution, but I think they felt they needed to, how do we step across the street? How do we impact and get more involved in the community around us? And so that's what my dad was brought into.
Having our community have exposure to know what's out there, what's available, because once you have that education and your family, you can fly. And that's what he believed in, and that's what he lived by.
And so the first one was in Guadalupe. It was it was on a dirt field. A podium was built. An area lifted up was built out of wood by the folks out in Guadalupe. Almost every graduate's family was there. And as soon as it ended, the mariachi started playing, but the other thing started happening. Is this incredible joy took over the place as parents and brothers and sisters and kids running around were all hugging each other and crying. It was an incredibly powerful scene. For the next few years it stayed in Guadalupe, but it grew and it became powerful enough that ultimately the university recognized it, and that's why it's here today.
And I think we had about 50 people walk that first year, and it was really just one of the most beautiful events that you can imagine, just to see all the families there and just the celebration and the music.
One of the biggest expectations from my dad's point of view, I believe, was that it was to be televised, it was on TV, because he wanted the next generation of students to see a niece, a nephew, somebody, a young couple, a young mom and dad, seeing the convocation and saying, hey, look, there's somebody like me, there's somebody that looks like me, and they graduated college, maybe I can do that too.
The convocation is really a celebration of the families who really provided the support, and the community that provided the support for the students to get through college and to graduate from college. I think that many Latino families understand that education is really the springboard for opportunity, and I think the celebration of success and the celebration of being able to kind of navigate these systems and move on to, I think, new vistas is really very important. I think, for the community that's been, so instrumental in providing labor and intelligence and creativity in the state, I think is just really important, and to celebrate the pathways to opportunity that this university provided them. I think it's just absolutely critical. Boy, has it grown. There are so many people who participate. The crowds are much larger. It's no longer held in Guadalupe, it's held here on campus. But I think that reflects in many respects the success of Arizona State University in welcoming this community and providing opportunities for this community. Things have changed enormously since the time that the first convocation was held 40 years ago.
We have more graduates. We have more families attending and friends attending. We have these graduates now that are going out and they're going to have the power to change the world. They're going to have more influence.
There were no Pell Grants 40 years ago. So there was work study. There were very few scholarships. Almost everyone who was there was working 1 or 2 jobs and taking 14 hours every semester. I mean, this was these were people who should have been recognized. These were young people who should have been celebrated, but they would have been lost in a sea of whiteness had Laudo and every other person that took part in putting this together not been there. And they've been recognized ever since. Not only in this campus, by the way, that act of Laudo grew like wildfire. It went across the country, people recognizing those who otherwise would have been lost.
Para todos los estudiantes, felicidades en su éxito. Yo entiendo que ha sido un camino a veces muy duro, pero hoy es momento para celebrar sus éxitos y también quería decir para las familias felicidades también, porque todos saben que sin ustedes, sin el apoyo de ustedes, que el éxito de hoy no se podía realizar. Felicidades.
Esos estudiantes han llegado a la cima académica, pero quiero reconocer a los padres que están aquí y a aquellos que no están aquí, porque estos jóvenes no estuvieran aquí si no hubiera familias que los fuera a veces forzados, levantarlos, hicieron lo necesario para que llegaran aquí, para que cumplieran. Entonces, mis felicidades a todos esos padres que están aquí, todas esas madres, hermanas, hijos, que hicieron este momento posible.